Good afternoon, hello, welcome to the TriathlonDan YouTube channel. Welcome to a video that's all about my race yesterday at the Outlaw X half distance triathlon at Thoresby Hall. Firstly, very well done to you if you took part in this event. I'm sure I don't need to tell you about that nasty headwind towards the end of the bike and other challenges on the course, but yeah, really well done to you. And also, thank you so much to the marshals, the event organisers, the supporters that make these things possible. It's so good after the last 18 months, 2 years we've had to be able to get out and just do a race and have as little stress with those sorts of things as possible. So thank you very much. Also, Liz has texted me earlier, she's at work today, saying something like, what do you want to say? Thank you to everybody who wished her well for Manchester Marathon. That's absolutely blown my mind that people obviously take on board that information and then say things to her when they see her. So that's really spurred her on, so thank you very much. Anyway, on to race results. I'm going to break down like my overall time, the splits, what I think went well, what I think didn't go well. You might be able to relate to some of this. I'm sure we come across a lot of the same problems. So overall, I placed, excluding relays, 43rd overall in a time of 4 hours and 46 minutes and 38 seconds. And you know what? The overarching theme to this is I'm absolutely buzzing with that. I think I performed as well, better than I expected, and that's the best thing, isn't it? I think all too often people are too critical of themselves in like post-race reviews. We have to remember the majority of us are amateurs. We do this for fun, so if you're constantly being negative about your performances, then it's not fun, is it? I know that it's important to want to be better, and I still have that, but I'm going to take the positives when they come, so I'm very happy.
Right, so Simon, this is going to ride you up, and I was losing my...
Dan, how do you feel? How do you feel?
Brilliant. The support on course, absolutely incredible. People out there, top notch. See you next year.
Had a good race.
Brilliant. Well done, Sean. Oh my goodness. You had a good day?
4:46.38.
So the day started off with, for me, oh, and also finishing 36 seconds ahead of Tri-Sci. That just hits a little bit different. That is good. Sorry, Simon. Right, so swam, what I swim, 34:42 ship time. Really happy with that. I've only swam a couple of times in the last few weeks, so that's very good. I dived in, nailed the dive in my opinion. It probably looks a little bit different on the camera to what it did do in person, but yeah, I felt like I nailed it. Swam pretty hard. I felt like I was swimming harder than I have done before. Didn't necessarily result in a faster swim, but as I said, with my previous training, like it's to be expected. With about 400 meters to go, I did experience like a group came around me. I didn't get overwhelmed or anything. I just sort of stayed calm and I actually worked really hard to stay in that group, and I think that did, you know, save me a few seconds towards the end. I hadn't been swimming that hard earlier on, so it makes me think, am I still not swimming hard enough? Should I work to try and get in a group and that sort of thing? But yeah, maybe in the future, but that was good. T1, 4.5 minutes. It's quite a long run from the lake to your bike, so that accounts for some of that time. I didn't put socks on because I thought, oh, if I can save 20-30 seconds or so in transition, that's sometimes the difference between getting onto a fast bike pack and not. So I didn't put socks on, but no bike pack existed. There were minutes up the road, so I was never going to catch them. But anyway, onto the bike. It was mainly a tailwind on the way out and mainly a headwind on the way back, but there's a lot of zigzagging on the course, so it's not like it's just a straight headwind tailwind all the time, and I actually really enjoyed that. It's quite hard mentally to focus on, oh, okay, for the next hour and a bit or however long I'm going to have a tailwind, and then for the next hour and a bit or however long I'm going to have a headwind. Actually breaking it down makes it easier to do, so you you know, like surge into the headwind, take it easy with the tailwind. It broke it up. All the twisty turny lanes really made it an interesting course. The surface was on the most part very good. Sure, there are a few potholes, but that is the British roads, isn't it? They're all very well marked with orange paint, thank you Outlaw, and a lot of the course was very good. This is quite overgrown down here. Shorts were a brave choice. Anyway, so I biked a normalised power of 285 watts. I felt like I fueled well. I had 2 bottles of full steam. I didn't lose a bottle for the first time this year, thanks to my new bottle cage. And I had 4 OTE 40 gram of carb gels, and I felt like I was just about getting sick of the gels towards the end of the bike, but not too much, and I didn't feel like I bonked at all. I felt good. I felt like I paced it well, so I normalised 285 watts, paced it pretty evenly. Really, it would have been faster if I'd have lifted it into the headwind a bit, but you know, I was getting a little bit more tired towards the end, and I was happy just to hold the position, hold the power, and have a solid ride. In terms of like percentage of FTP, that's about 85% of my threshold, which is towards the top end of what you should ride for a half distance bike split. But I have done a lot more cycling this year than I have done in other sports, so if there was ever a discipline I was going to press on more in, it was the bike. So I biked me was at 2:23.51, which was, I think it was the 15th or 16th fastest bike split on the day. I'm not out to get any bike course records, because it's not really a thing in the age group field, and it doesn't really pay dividends on the run. But yeah, I was really happy with that, to be honest. I think I only lost one place, and that was a bloke who passed me quite early on in the race, and he was motoring. There was no way I was going to go with him. So yeah, I was really happy with that. Rode the whole thing pretty much on my own. I came across another bloke about maybe 35-40 miles in. I sat behind him for about 2 minutes, then I went past him. I went through a few corners and looked back, and he was gone. So it's very unlikely you're going to find somebody to be able to work with. And even at 12 meters with the tailwind, it's not really that much of a benefit. I was hoping to find somebody into the headwind sections, but it just didn't happen. But similar to a lot of people. T2, 2.5 minutes, a little bit slow for a T2 that, but I did have to sit down and put my socks on, so that was what happened with that. Coming out of transition, this is what I was really worried about. I was worried about the run. My run training has been very, very limited, not recently because of injury, just because of bone idleness basically, and a lack of drive. So I was worried. I hadn't run over 5 miles since like July, so I was like, oh dear, we'll see how this goes. Started off on the run. I think my first mile was about 7 minutes and 40 seconds. I was okay with that, but I thought it was a bit quick. But I thought, I'll do 2 or 3 miles to feel and see how it's going. My heart rate was quite high, but I didn't feel like I was breathing that heavily. So I thought, well, okay, I'll just just keep going how I'm going. I didn't take on any fuel until 5k. I like to try and get settled into the run before I start taking on gels or anything. I'd carried 2 OTE gels with me on the run. I had one at 5k, then one at about 13 or 14k. But the miles just kept ticking by. I kept breaking it down, get to the next aid station, have a splash of water, drink of water, then just keep going and keep going. The run course, for those that did it will know, but those that don't, it's a mixture of tarmac, grass, and trail, like gravel, which is really, really good. There was nothing too bad, but it made you think about where you're putting your feet. I described the elevation as undulating, and I don't mean that as something when you say, oh, it's only undulating to get somebody there, but it's actually hell. It's actually all right. The climbs aren't very steep and aren't very long, but it made me be able to break down mentally the run course. The first half was quite a lot of uphill, and then the second half was quite a lot of downhill. Total elevation about 700 feet, so not hilly, but it just meant that in my mind I was only having to run the first half of the lap, because the second half was almost free because it was downhill and flat. Like, that was the recovery, and I was sort of holding the same sort of pace throughout, just varying my effort. Did that for the first couple of laps, and coming on to the last lap, this really is not easy. Coming on to the last lap, in my mind I thought, right, I'm going to lift it here if I can, and I couldn't in reality. My effort level lifted, but the pace stayed the same. Of course, as you go through a race you get more and more tired, don't you? But my pace was very, very consistent. I actually ran a 1:41 half marathon, which is my second fastest half distance run split, only bettered by myself in 2019 when I was a lot fitter than I am now. I ran 1:37 at Nottingham Half, which is a flatter course, so I was so stoked with that. I was actually making a few places on the run, or these people were probably like a lap behind me, but I was, passing people for like the first time ever, and it was just incredible. And I wasn't passing people like, absolutely steaming past them. I was passing them at a speed I was able to have a bit of conversation with people as well, and you sort of motivating each other on. So yeah, really, really good. So 4:46 overall. Really, really happy. Now I've talked a lot about the positives in there. I do want to focus on a couple of like constructive areas. It's quite obvious, I need to swim and run a lot better if I want to be competitive at these events. It's quite simply, I'm coming out the swim too far back to ride with the cyclists that I could ride with if I was getting out of the water with them, and then on the run, if I was with those cyclists, I'd just be going backwards. So to be better at triathlon, I need to be better at swimming and running. So that's the plan, to be honest, over the winter. I'm not going to go mental, I'm not going to swim every day, but unless I make decisive change, I'm not going to see any changes in my performance, am I? So that started last night, actually. I went to the swim club. I was tired, obviously, from the half, but I know that I need to just keep going if I'm going to get any better. So we did like a big pool set last night, and it was hard, but good to do. Running wise, I'm going to be working with a run coach. I'm already coached by James at RideHarder. He does my bike plan for me. That starts next week after I have an easy week this week. But again, if I just keep doing my own run training, it's not going to get any better than it is now. Sure, I might motivate myself for a couple of weeks to do a couple more runs, but that time spent second guessing my run training, because I don't know a huge amount about the science of run training. When I was a faster runner a couple of years ago, I was just doing a lot of running, and I don't necessarily think that it was the most time efficient. Like, I was doing like 50-60 mile weeks for 8 or 10 weeks in a row, and then I got quite good at running, or quite good, relatively speaking, at running, and I'm sure I could have got similar results with less miles if I was to have somebody who gives some guidance. So more on that in another video. In terms of the biking, I'm going to be doing the RideHarder Winter Academy. The applications are still open to join that. If you are interested, I'll leave the link down below. I'll try and definitely leave the link down below this time. Sorry, James. And that's pretty much going to be the theme for the winter, I think. So let's get a bit better at triathlon is the plan. I'm not going to claim that I'm going to break any world records, but to do something like that yesterday, be 43rd overall, it gives me a bit of encouragement that, okay, actually if I start, you know what it's like, oh, if I was only 5 minutes faster at that and 10 minutes faster at that, then I would have come wherever. Obviously I'm doing all of that, but I'm just going to give it my best shot. So yeah, once again, well done to anybody who took part, and I'm struggling on this hill now, and yeah, I'll see you tomorrow at 4 PM for I don't really know what yet. I'm having an easy week this week, so we'll play it by ear. See you later.